Captain America Brave New World stars Anthony Mackie, Harrison Ford, Giancarlo Esposito, and Danny Ramirez, directed by Julius Ona. This fourth installment of the Captain America franchise stars Sam Wilson as he is a part of a sinister plot, an international incident that occurs after a meeting with President Ross. He must soon discover the nefarious plot, the mastermind behind this before the world turns red. We're going to talk about this movie and if you, as a Christian, should watch it right now. Hello everyone, I'm your host Tim, and we exist to help Christians live in the world, not of the world, by utilizing our convictions in the movies and shows we watch. Captain America Brave New World is rated PG-13 for some violence and action, some intense stuff in that regard, as well as, of course, some strong language. So we're going to dive into some convictions you may have in watching this film, any theological themes that may be present in this movie, as well as, of course, a personal review from yours truly. Without further ado, let's head over to the Christian conviction meter. And over here, we have 5 categories. We have violence and gore, lust, substance abuse, profanity, and intense/horror/frightening scenes and images. First topic on hand is talking about violence and gore. And this movie, for the most part, has kind of your standard superhero Marvel Cinematic Universe action. Right? There is explosions, there is gunfire, there is a raging Red Hulk in this movie. And of course, there's, just superpowers and stuff like that contained within this film. So there are things in that regard. However, there is probably a little bit more than you would expect. They do lean heavy into the thriller aspect. That's what they're trying to do, trying to capture a similar magic to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, because that one is regarded as one of the best MCU movies. So they try to be more intense with their action. The combat is a little more, I'd say, in some ways aggressive, but at the same time too, there also is a bit of blood. There's some stabbings, there's some shootings, there is some blood both from like a slice and also just from some puncture wounds that happened to one of our characters. Again, not trying to get into spoiler territory for you guys, but again, if violence and gore are not your thing, this is probably not the movie to watch. Overall, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. So it is in that sort of moderate range, but it can lean into a little more heavy at points. Moving over to lust, there is nothing. There's absolutely nothing here in this category to behold for lust. So if you struggle with that, no need to worry about seeing any of that. Let's move on to our next category, which is substance abuse. This is anything dealing with, of course, more your alcoholic beverages, your more substances, stuff like that. There is no alcohol contained within this film whatsoever. There is pills and the taking of pills. We don't know exactly what the pills are till the end of the movie. I will save you the time here in case this is an area that might be a little more heavy for you, is that they're not specific substances contained within our actual reality. It's not anything of a high dose, nothing super lethal. It's for a specific character to help them with their medical issues that is contained within the confines of the MCU. So it's nothing that actually exists here on this planet. It's all stuff that is contained within comic books and fiction, but again, there still is these things. So with that, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5 just to be on the safe bet here for anyone who might struggle with this area. Moving on to profanity, one of the things and reasons why it's rated PG-13 is because there is some strong language in here, and that is for sure the truth. There's multiple uses of different cuss words. To save you time, there's the A word, the BA word, the BI word, SH word. There is also the use of God, DA. There's also multiple uses of the DA word in general. There is strong language within this film. Plus, on top of that, there also is some language within the end credits song, which is done by Kendrick Lamar. If you're familiar with his type of music, he does tend to use some profanity. So there is a decent chunk of profanity within the entire movie. hence why I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. Moving on to our last category, which is intense/frightening and horror images and scenes. There's nothing on the horror era of this film, unless you want to count our villain and how he looks. He just looks creepy and just ugly, if I'm being frank with you. It's a lot more kind of, I guess the best way to put it is more demented, more brain is kind of shown, if that's probably the best way to put it. But there is, of course, also some frightening images with the Hulk raging and just a lot of anger being used here, a lot of like buildings being crashed and like the White House gets hit. There also is some scenes of just some potentially traumatic events. Namely, of course, the president is being shot in one of the scenes here, which was shown in the trailer but was later removed due to current events that were happening at the time. If that's something, an area you're like, ugh, I would hold off from watching this film. At the same time, too, while a suicide isn't explicitly shown in the film, there is a man who puts a gun to his mouth. I know suicide can be very, very traumatic area for a lot of you, so I do want to handle that with a lot of grace. If you are prone to any sort of post-traumatic stress from that, I would recommend staying away from this film. It's a very brief scene, yes, but if it's going to cause any emotion, any potential anxiety, stress, maybe even an anxiety attack, a panic attack of sorts, I would stay away from it. Don't worry about it. Just avoid it. Wait till it comes on Disney Plus. That way you can fast forward through it. Yes, it's a brief scene, but I do want to take an abundance of caution because of that. I know how that may affect certain people. And so there is that. That being said, though, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 on this category as well, just to be on the safeguard, particularly for the last two scenes with the president getting shot and the suicide attempt in this film. So again, these are things to warn, things to be wary of. Overall, on the conviction meter, this is a 10 out of 25. So we're not halfway through the list, but it is closer to that moderate range. Again, there are things in this film to be wary of. If you struggle with these areas, I would recommend not watching this film because of that. Remember, we ultimately want you to grow in your relationship with Jesus. If this stuff sets you back from that, this is not worth watching for the sake of watching it. If it compromises your relationship with Jesus in any sort of way, I would say don't worry about watching this film. You'll be okay. Without further ado, let's talk about some theological themes that are present. While there is no theological or scriptural references within the film, nothing I can concretely point and say, hey, look, there's a little Bible reference for us. That's pretty cool. There's nothing of the sort here, but there is a few kind of, I'd say, more theological themes that are present within this film. One of the things is redemption, is a kind of big part of President Ross's character arc throughout the film, talking about how a person can change. If you're familiar with the MCU at large, you know Ross has been on the wrong side of history for superheroes. He's not a fan. In this film, he does have a change of heart, and there is a lot of conversations of maybe Ross has changed. Maybe he has lightened his stance, so to speak, on superheroes and enhanced individuals. And so there is that thread throughout the film, which is pretty nice for those of us who consider ourselves Christians as followers of Jesus. We know that ultimately, like, we also go through a redemption experience, not exactly as Ross does through the film, but we do go through a redemption experience. We go from a spiritual death to spiritual life this way by accepting Jesus as our Lord and Savior. So there is that thread through this. At the same time, too, there also is talking about doing the right thing and, of course, you know, being a representative to the nations, an ambassador to the nations. Of course, that's a lot of what the president does, a lot of what we see just through life and stuff. And for us as Christians, we are ambassadors of Christ. We represent him wherever we go, where we live, learn, work, play, eat, shop, vacation, all that sort of good stuff. Those are some, I guess you could say, kind of broader themes. But again, there's nothing explicitly Christian within this film. No specific theological theme that I can like really pull out. These are just a few things I noticed that could potentially, if someone is watching, be like, oh, that's kind of a cool tie back, and I can see where that goes with my relationship with Jesus. Let's wrap this up and give my own personal thoughts in a quick review. This may be a Captain America film, but it is 100% a Incredible Hulk 2. The reason, of course, it is under the Captain America label is because obviously, one, it's cool to see Sam Wilson again, it's cool to see Anthony Mackie again, but also because of, different rights issues and stuff like that when they were filming and creating this movie. Overall, this film has some pretty cool stuff. The action here is solid, the music is solid overall for the most part, and of course, our two kind of lead actors here, Anthony Mackie and Harrison Ford, do a really solid job as their respective characters. Harrison Ford did, I think, a really great job. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor, so really is no surprise, but stepping into William Hurt's shoes is definitely something that can feel uncomfortable, but I thought he did a fantastic job. He's definitely the one character who has the biggest arc throughout the film, and so that is cool to see. However, there is definitely problems with this film. There was a bunch of reshoots that occurred during filming for this movie. Some test screenings didn't go well, apparently, and things like that. So a lot of stuff was changed during the course of filming and reshooting this movie. There are moments within the film that it is obvious to see these reshoots, and that may not look all that great. There is also a lot of cutting in this movie. A lot of quick jumps, quick beats, plot point to plot point to plot point, especially within the first act. That is a big problem because we go from, oh, they're in Mexico to, oh, we, are heading to Baltimore to see, hey, look, it's Isaiah Bradley. And then, oh, look, we're heading to the White House. And, oh, look, our plot begins. And so it was just very quick and fast paced within this film. I thought they did a pretty okay job at getting the suspense and thriller elements here. They definitely do attempt to lean into those. And for the most part, they did pretty good. But again, the pacing here is just not all that great. The reshoots are quite noticeable. And compared to the rest of the Cap movies, it definitely is the weakest one, but it still is a pretty fun time and overall is decent. It's not great by any means, but it is decent. It's better than some of the other movies in the MCU. I think the hard part is it doesn't live up to, I guess you could say, the Infinity Saga standard. Overall, I'm going to give this a 7.4 out of 10. It's pretty good, but it's not great. With that being said, if you watch Captain America Brave New World, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Are there any theological themes that maybe I missed that you saw? Let me know down in the comments below. Would love to chat with you there, as well as your thoughts on there. Keep it spoiler free. I try to keep these reviews spoiler free for everybody, just, to make sure that, anyone who either watches it beforehand, that they can know and help to figure out whether this is the right movie for me to watch or for my kids to watch, anything like that. So keep the comments spoiler free. I truly appreciate it. And speaking of truly appreciating it, I hope you give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below, all that good stuff. We truly appreciate it. Helps the algorithm out so we can reach more Christians to help them live in the world but not of the world by utilizing their convictions in the movies and shows we watch. With that being said, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to spend time with us here. We truly appreciate it. There's a video that is recommended to you that dives a bit deeper into what this channel is about. So go ahead and hit that if you're interested. I'll see you all in the next one.